You're not my father anymore." Nolan's words cut through Thanksgiving dinner like a blade. The entire family froze. Forks hung midair. My grandson started crying in the other room, but nobody moved. I looked at my son, searching his face for any sign of the boy I raised. The one I'd sat up with during nightmares. The one I'd taught to ride a bike. Nothing. His eyes were cold, rehearsed. Valerie, his wife, sat beside him with a smile that made my stomach turn. She'd orchestrated this moment. I could see it in the way she touched his arm, the way she nodded encouragement. "Did you hear me?" Nolan stood up. "You need to leave. Now." "Son, what are you talking about?" My voice cracked. "What did I do? Don't play innocent." Valerie's voice dripped with false concern. "You know exactly what you've done. The manipulation, the controlling behavior, the way you've tried to turn Nolan against me." I hadn't. Not once. But looking around the table at my daughter, my brother, my sister-in-law, I saw doubt in their eyes. She'd already poisoned them against me. "Leave," Nolan repeated. "And don't come back." I stood slowly, my hands shaking. 63 years old, and my own son was throwing me out like garbage. The calls started the next morning. First, my daughter, her voice tight and uncomfortable. "Dad, Nolan told me some things. About the money you borrowed from him. About the things you said about Valerie." "What money? What things?" He showed me bank statements, emails. "Dad, why would you do that?" I didn't borrow money. I'd never sent those emails. But she'd already decided I was guilty. By afternoon, my brother stopped answering my calls. My sister-in-law blocked my number. The smear campaign was thorough and brutal. Then came the real blow. I tried to check my pension account online. Access denied. I called the bank. "Mr. Hartley, your account has been flagged for suspicious activity. We're conducting an internal review." Suspicious activity? I've had this account for 40 years. "I'm sorry, sir. The investigation was triggered by a complaint filed by a family member claiming financial elder abuse." My chest tightened. Financial elder abuse. They were painting me as a victim of my own incompetence while simultaneously making me the villain. I hung up and stared at my phone. Something was terribly wrong. This wasn't just family drama. This was calculated. I needed to know what they were really after. I started digging. Small things at first. I pulled old documents from my filing cabinet. The deed to the family home, the one my late wife Eleanor and I bought in 1987. My name should have been on it as co-owner after she passed. It wasn't. The deed showed only Nolan's name. Transfer date, 6 months ago. My signature sat at the bottom of the transfer document, notarized and official. Except I never signed it. I grabbed a magnifying glass and studied the signature. Close, but the H was wrong. Whoever forged it didn't know I always looped the bottom. My hands trembled as I searched through more papers. Business documents for Nolan's tech company, property tax records, insurance policies. My name had been systematically erased from everything. 3 days later, my neighbor, old Mrs. Pembroke, knocked on my apartment door. I'd moved into a small rental after the house became Nolan's. "Mr. Hartley, I'm not one to meddle." She handed me a manila envelope. But I saw something that didn't sit right. Inside were photos. Valerie, entering a notary office downtown. The timestamp, 6 months and 2 weeks ago. The day before my signature appeared on that deed. "She went in with a briefcase," Mrs. Pembroke whispered, came out smiling. I called Wallace the next morning. We'd been friends since high school, back when he was destined for law school and I was heading to the Marines. Life took him through 3 decades as a prosecutor before he retired to run a fishing supply store. "You still remember how to read a legal document?" I asked. "Like riding a bike." His voice perked up. "What have you got?" I spread everything across his shop counter an hour later. The forged deed, the photos, the timeline of my sudden family exile. Wallace studied each page in silence, his reading glasses perched on his nose. Finally, he looked up. "They're playing a long game, my friend. You're the last obstacle." "Obstacle to what?" "I don't know yet, but people don't forge documents and launch smear campaigns for no reason. There's money involved. Big money." He tapped the deed. "This house is worth what now? 400,000? 470 at last appraisal. That's enough to kill over in some families, but I think there's more." Wallace leaned back. "We need to know what else your name is tied to. What did Eleanor leave behind that they might want?" That's when I remembered. The trust. Eleanor died 7 years ago. Cancer took her in 4 brutal months. Before she passed, she made me promise to take care of the family business interests. Our son's company, TechVault Solutions, had nearly collapsed in 2019. Bad investors, worse timing, and Nolan's inexperience almost destroyed everything. I stepped in quietly. 50,000 of my retirement savings became the foundation that saved his company. But it wasn't a gift. Eleanor insisted we protect ourselves. My investment lawyer, a sharp woman named Mrs. Hartwell, drafted an agreement. My 50,000 bought me a stake in the company's foundational IP license. The original software code, the patents, the trademarks, nothing could be sold, transferred, or reorganized without my signature. I'd forgotten about it. Nolan's company took off in 2021. Last I heard, they were courting buyers. Big Silicon Valley money, 8-figure deals. And I was the only thing standing between Nolan and Valerie and that fortune. Wallace found the original documents in my storage box. The IP license agreement signed by both Nolan and me, notarized by Mrs. Hartwell herself. "They need you gone," Wallace said quietly. "Not just out of the family. They need you legally irrelevant. That's why the smear campaign." The next morning, I visited a lawyer Eleanor had used years ago. Not the family attorney, someone independent. His name was Preston Gaines, an estate specialist who worked out of a cramped office that smelled like old books and coffee. "Let me guess," Preston said when I explained the situation. "Someone's trying to challenge a will or trust. How did you know?" He pulled out a file. "Because Valerie Morrison already tried, 3 months ago." My blood ran cold. "Morrison? That's her maiden name." "She filed documents claiming Eleanor's will was invalid due to undue influence. Claimed you manipulated your wife on her deathbed to leave everything to you instead of distributing it to the children." "That's insane. Eleanor made those decisions herself." Preston nodded. "The challenge was thrown out. Eleanor's will was airtight. But here's the interesting part. Everything was left to you with one condition." "What condition?" "You remain the family executor, meaning you control the distribution of assets to the children. If you're removed, declared incompetent, or dead, control passes to a court-appointed administrator." "Who would Valerie suggest as administrator?" Preston smiled grimly. "Herself." I sat back, the pieces falling into place. This wasn't just about money. It was about total control. I needed information, real intelligence from inside their world. Wallace suggested something risky. "My niece Autumn just finished her 2nd year of law school. She's sharp, discreet, and nobody in your family knows her." 3 days later, Autumn knocked on Valerie and Nolan's door wearing yoga pants and carrying dog-walking flyers. "Hi, I'm starting a pet care business in the neighborhood. I noticed you have a gorgeous golden retriever. Would you be interested in daily walks? First week free." Valerie, who never met a free service she didn't love, agreed immediately. Autumn walked that dog every day for 2 weeks. She wore a discreet audio recorder in her fitness watch. Wallace taught her how to position herself near open windows, how to arrive early and linger near the garage when they argued. The recordings she brought back were gold. Day 4, Valerie on the phone. "He's out of the way now. Once we get the house reappraised, we liquidate. Then we push the buyout through. By Christmas, we're looking at 12 million minimum." Day 9, Nolan sounding uncertain. "Are you sure we should be doing this? He's still my father." Valerie's response, sharp and cold, "He's an obstacle, that's all." Day 12 broke my heart. "Nolan, what if he fights back?" Valerie laughing, "He's 63 and alone. Who's going to help him?" I needed to see the house one more time. My house. The one Eleanor and I painted ourselves. The one where we raised our children. The one they'd stolen with forged signatures. Autumn texted me when they left for a weekend trip. "Coast clear. Back door unlocked." I stood in the driveway for 5 minutes before I could move. New locks on the front door. Security cameras I'd never seen before. Everything looked the same, but felt alien. Inside, the changes were subtle, but deliberate. New photos on the mantle, family pictures carefully curated to exclude me. The wedding photo of Eleanor and me that used to hang in the hallway was gone. My favorite chair, the leather recliner I'd sat in every evening for 20 years, replaced with some modern monstrosity. I walked to what used to be my bedroom. Valerie had converted it into a yoga studio. That's when I saw it. A small camera, mounted in the corner near the ceiling, lens pointed at the door. Why would they need a camera in a yoga studio? Autumn appeared behind me. I found 3 more, living room, kitchen, and 1 in the garage. They're watching for me. Probably, but Mr. Hartley, look at this. She showed me her phone. I hacked their security system. I can access the footage. I decided to try one more time with Nolan. Father to son without Valerie's poison in his ear. I called from a number he wouldn't recognize. Meet me at Riverfront Park, 30 minutes, come alone. He showed up, but the man who sat across from me on that bench wasn't my son. He was a stranger wearing Nolan's face. What do you want? His voice was flat, corporate. I want to know why. Why you do this to me. You're old, Dad. You wouldn't understand what Valerie and I are trying to build. The opportunities we have. The life we could give our kids. By forging my signature? By stealing my house? His jaw tightened. Nobody stole anything. You transferred it willingly. I never signed those papers. That's what you say now. But you're getting older. Your memory isn't what it was. Maybe you don't remember. The audacity took my breath away. He was actually trying to gaslight me. Son, please, think about what you're doing. Nolan stood. We never needed your name anyway. This meeting was a mistake. He walked away without looking back. I sat there until sunset, trying to remember when I'd lost him. Wallace called at midnight. I found it, the smoking gun. I drove to his shop immediately. He had documents spread across 3 tables, highlighted and cross-referenced. The IP license you signed in 2019, it's still active. Look at Clause 17, subsection B. I read the legal language carefully. In any sale, transfer, merger, or reorganization of company assets, original IP stakeholder must approve and sign all documents of transfer. You're the original IP stakeholder. Nothing happens without you. But if I'm declared incompetent, then a guardian is appointed. Want to guess who Valerie would petition to be? Wallace pulled up another document on his laptop. Look what I found in the county business filings. Someone filed preliminary paperwork for a company sale 3 weeks ago. TechVault Solutions to a venture capital firm called Meridian Equity. Purchase price, $14 million. $14 million, and they needed my signature to close the deal. There's more, Wallace said grimly. I checked the timeline. They filed this 2 days after Thanksgiving. 2 days after they kicked you out. They were already setting it up. And here's the illegal part. They never disclosed your stake to the buyers. That's fraud. If Meridian finds out, they'll walk. We had them. The next morning, Preston filed a quiet restraining clause with the county business court. It was a technical legal move that essentially froze any sale of TechVault Solutions until all stakeholders were verified and consented. This will buy us time, Preston explained. But they'll figure out who filed it eventually. How long do we have? 2 weeks. Maybe 3 before they can challenge it. Meanwhile, Autumn's recordings were getting better. She'd captured Valerie on the phone with someone at Meridian Equity, assuring them that all stakeholders are aligned and ready to sign. A lie. A documentable, prosecutable lie. Wallace also discovered something disturbing in the family trust documents. Eleanor's trust was being systematically dissolved. Assets were being transferred into accounts I couldn't access. Valerie had somehow gotten herself named as secondary trustee, claiming she needed access to help manage your declining mental state. They're building a paper trail, Wallace said. Every document, every transfer, every medical claim they make about you is designed to paint you as incompetent. What do? We let them keep digging, and we document everything. Autumn captured another conversation that night. Valerie, the old man filed something. Preston won't say what, but it's blocking the sale. Nolan, can we fight it? We'll have to. We're too far in to back out now. I remembered Mrs. Hartwell, the investor who'd helped structure my original stake in TechVault. She'd been Eleanor's college roommate, sharp as a knife and tough as nails. She'd retired to Arizona, but we'd kept in touch through Christmas cards. I called her on a Wednesday morning. Well, the ghost of Christmas past. Her voice was warm. How are you, old friend? I told her everything. The forged documents, the smear campaign, the pending sale. She was silent for a long moment. And they never disclosed your stake to Meridian? Not according to the filings Wallace found. That's fraud, securities fraud. She paused. I still know people at Meridian. Let me make some calls. 2 days later, she called back. The sale is stalled. Meridian just discovered an undisclosed stakeholder issue that needs resolution. How did they find out? Anonymous tip. Amazing what gets discovered when people start asking questions. I could hear the smile in her voice. Here's the beautiful part. The purchase agreement has a clause. If any material information was withheld, Meridian can walk away and demand repayment of their deposit. How much was the deposit? $500,000, which your son and his wife spent on a beach house down payment last month. They'd spent money they didn't have yet. Nolan showed up at my apartment on a Friday night. No warning, no call. He knocked softly, like he used to when he was 7 and had nightmares. When I opened the door, I barely recognized him. Red eyes, rumpled clothes, hands shaking. "Dad," his voice cracked. "We need to talk." I let him in. He sat on my couch and put his head in his hands. We made mistakes. I made mistakes. Valerie and we got caught up in the money and the opportunity, and I lost sight of what matters. The apology sounded rehearsed, but desperation made it waver. "The sale is falling apart. Meridian found out about your stake. They're threatening to pull out unless you sign." "I see. Dad, please. I know I hurt you. I know I said terrible things, but I'm still your son. We can fix this. We can work together." I looked at him for a long time. The boy I'd raised was somewhere in there, buried under Valerie's manipulation and his own greed. "You already disowned me," I said quietly. "Thanksgiving night, in front of everyone, you told me I wasn't your father anymore. Remember?" I was angry. I was stupid. "No, you were clear." I stood up. "Go ask your real father for help." "Oh wait, you already said I'm not him." Valerie came herself 3 days later. She didn't knock softly like Nolan. She pounded on the door like she owned it. "We need to talk." She pushed past me without invitation. "Get out of my apartment." "Sign the papers." She threw a folder on my table. "Sign and we'll forget all this unpleasantness. You can have a fair share. 5% of the sale. That's $700,000. 700,000 out of 14 million? How generous. It's more than you deserve. You contributed 50,000 6 years ago. The company is worth what it is because of Nolan's work, not your money. And my signature on the IP license? Her smile was sharp. A technicality we're prepared to challenge. Sign now, take the money, or we'll have you declared mentally incompetent. We have documentation of your declining state. Missed appointments, confused phone calls, financial mismanagement. All lies. Prove it. She leaned close. "You're 63 and alone. You think anyone will believe you over us?" A week later, I received a formal letter from her attorney. They were filing for guardianship, claiming I suffered from dementia and could no longer manage my affairs. Preston was already 3 steps ahead. "We'll file a defamation suit, preemptive strike." Will it work? It'll make them think twice. Then everything changed. A letter arrived from a law firm in Seattle. Eleanor's estate had a delayed asset distribution I'd forgotten about. Her uncle had owned a cabin in the San Juan Islands and mineral rights to a small parcel in Montana. When he died, the properties went into a trust that finally cleared probate. The cabin alone was worth $300,000. The mineral rights, after a recent survey discovered rare earth elements, were valued at $1.2 million. Eleanor had left it all to me. Preston called it the trump card. "You now control more liquid assets than the entire Tech Vault sale would net them after taxes and fees. You don't need their money. They need yours." Better yet, the mineral rights had a quirk in the trust language. Any future development required family consensus among Eleanor's heirs, meaning Nolan had a stake, but so did I, and neither could move without the other. When Wallace told me, he was grinning. "You've got them in checkmate. They can't cut you out without losing their own inheritance. And they can't access their inheritance without your cooperation." I sat back and smiled for the first time in months. Let them squirm a little. Autumn's recordings were getting better. She'd been walking the dog for 2 months now, and Valerie trusted her completely. The things people say when they think the help isn't listening. The recording from Tuesday night was the one we'd been waiting for. Valerie, on the phone, probably wine-drunk from the slurred words. "He's useless. A stubborn old man clinging to relevance. Let him die alone in that pathetic apartment. We'll get the money eventually." Nolan's voice in the background. "Val, keep your voice down." "Why? The dog walker's outside. Besides, I don't care. Your father is an obstacle, nothing more. When this is over, we're cutting all contact. Complete and permanent. Autumn had video too, Valerie laughing while she said it. Preston packaged everything for court. The forged signatures, the fraudulent trust transfers, the recordings proving intent to commit elder abuse and fraud. This is beyond civil court now, he said. This is criminal, wire fraud, forgery, identity theft. If we wanted, we could have her arrested. Not yet, I said. I want them to know it's coming. I want them to feel what I felt. Wallace cautioned me. Revenge is a bitter drink, my friend. This isn't revenge. This is justice. And it was time to serve it. The meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. at TechVault's main office. Meridian Equity executives, Mrs. Hartwell via video call, Nolan, Valerie, their attorney, and me. I arrived 15 minutes early with Preston and Wallace. Nolan's face went white when he saw me. What is he doing here? Valerie demanded. Mr. Hartley is a stakeholder in these proceedings, the Meridian representative said coolly. His presence is required. We sat. The Meridian team outlined their concerns about undisclosed ownership stakes and material misrepresentation during negotiations. Nolan tried to smooth it over. This is a simple misunderstanding. My father's stake is minimal, mostly symbolic. Symbolic? Mrs. Hartwell's voice came through the speaker. His $50,000 investment is the foundation of your entire IP portfolio. Without it, you'd have no company to sell. I let them argue for 20 minutes. Then I opened my laptop. I have something everyone should hear. Valerie's face went pale. I played the recording. Her voice, crystal clear, talking about letting me die alone, calling me useless, admitting they'd manipulated the situation. The room went silent. The Meridian executives exchanged glances. Their lead counsel made a note. This changes things, he said quietly. The Meridian team stepped out for a private discussion. 30 minutes later, they returned. We're prepared to move forward with the purchase, but our terms have changed. Given the disclosure issues and the concerning audio evidence, we'll need ironclad confirmation that all stakeholders are in agreement. That means Mr. Hartley's signature, obtained without coercion. They looked at me. We'd also like an independent ethics review of the company's management structure before we finalize the purchase. This is now a requirement, not a request. Nolan and Valerie sat frozen. Additionally, the lead counsel continued, we're reducing our offer to $12 million until the ethics review is complete. If everything checks out, we'll restore the full 14. If not, we reserve the right to walk away entirely. After they left, Valerie turned on me. You vindictive old man, do you have any idea what you've just done? I've protected my investment, something you should have considered before you forged my name. Nolan stood. What do you want? Just tell us what you want, and let's end this. I closed my laptop slowly. My terms, my timing, my price. Name it. You'll find out. My demands were simple, brutal, and non-negotiable. Valerie removed from all company access, all accounts, all decision-making. Nolan demoted from CEO to COO, with oversight from a board that included Mrs. Hartwell and 2 other independent directors. Full financial audit of all company dealings, with any irregularities reported to authorities. The family home returned to my name, with them as tenants until they could afford to buy it properly or move out. All money they'd taken from Eleanor's trust returned, with interest. And a public apology, written and signed, acknowledging what they'd done. You can't be serious, Valerie hissed when Preston presented the terms. I'm very serious. Sign by Friday, or I withdraw my consent to the sale entirely. Meridian walks, you lose the beach house deposit, and I file criminal charges for fraud and forgery. Nolan looked broken. This is my company. I built this. With my money, my IP stake, and my name that you tried to erase. We're your family. You're not my family. You said so yourself, remember? Thanksgiving, in front of everyone? I let that sink in. You have 72 hours. They signed on Thursday afternoon. Every demand met. The house transfer happened first. Preston handled it personally, triple-checking every signature, every notary stamp. My name went back on the deed where it belonged. Then came the letter I'd been waiting for. Formal notice that they had 30 days to vacate the property. I delivered it myself. Valerie answered the door, her face a mask of barely controlled rage. 30 days, I said simply, and don't forget to forward the mail. Nolan appeared behind her. Dad, please. Where are we supposed to go? I don't know. Maybe ask the people you said were your real family. Oh wait, I was the only family you had and you threw me away. I turned to leave, then stopped. One more thing. The cameras you installed, I had them removed. All of them. This is my house now. You're just tenants, and tenants don't spy on their landlord. I walked away feeling lighter than I had in months. On moving day, I left a letter on the kitchen table. I'd written it carefully, choosing every word. The letter detailed everything. How I knew from the start, how they'd underestimated me. The last line, I may not be your father anymore, but you'll always be my mistake. The ethics review took 6 weeks. The results were devastating for Valerie. Misappropriated company funds for personal expenses. Conflicts of interest with vendors who happened to be her friends. Questionable consulting fees paid to shell companies she controlled. The board voted her out unanimously. She was banned from the premises and removed from all company communications. Word spread fast in their social circles. The investors who'd courted them suddenly went quiet. The country club where Valerie had been angling for membership? Application denied. Her reputation, built on manipulation and appearances, crumbled like wet paper. Nolan fared slightly better. He kept his COO position, but under constant oversight. Every decision reviewed, every expense questioned. The sale to Meridian eventually closed at $13 million. My stake, plus the penalties I'd negotiated, netted me $2 million. I gave half to charity. Eleanor would have liked that. 6 months later, an envelope arrived at my door. Expensive paper, Nolan's handwriting. Inside was a letter. 5 pages, handwritten, tear-stained in places. He admitted everything. The lies, the manipulation, how Valerie had convinced him I was holding him back. How the money had blinded him. The last page asked for forgiveness, begged for a chance to talk. I read it 3 times. Then I walked to the fireplace and threw it in. I watched it burn completely. Some bridges once destroyed can't be rebuilt. Some betrayals cut too deep. He'd made his choice. Now I was making mine. The cabin in the San Juans became my sanctuary. I spent the spring renovating it, doing the work myself when I could, hiring local help for the rest. My daughter visited with my grandchildren, the ones I hadn't seen since Thanksgiving because Nolan had told her I was dangerous. I'm sorry I believed him, she said quietly one evening as we watched the sunset over the water. You're here now, that's what matters. The grandkids ran on the beach, their laughter carrying on the wind. Real family. The kind that shows up. I found peace in the simple things. Morning coffee on the deck, fishing in the afternoon, reading by the fire at night, no drama, no manipulation, no wondering if the people around me had ulterior motives. One morning, a FedEx envelope arrived, Meridian Equity letterhead. Inside was an offer. They wanted to expand TechVault, merge it with another acquisition, create something bigger. But they had concerns about current leadership. They wanted me to lead the negotiations. I smiled and called Preston. Looks like I'm going back to work. The boardroom hadn't changed. Same long table, same expensive chairs, same view of the city skyline. But everything else was different. I sat at the head of the table. Meridian executives to my right, Mrs. Hartwell on video to my left. Independent consultants filled the other seats. Nolan entered last. He'd aged in 6 months. Gray at his temples, lines around his eyes. He sat at the far end, as far from me as possible. Thank you all for coming, the Meridian CEO began. We're here to discuss the future of TechVault and our proposed expansion. He outlined the vision. New products, new markets, hundreds of jobs created. But we need leadership we can trust, leadership with proven integrity. Everyone turned to look at me. Mr. Hartley, we'd like you to chair the oversight board. Final approval on all major decisions. Fair compensation, minimal time commitment, maximum impact. Nolan's face was unreadable. I let the silence stretch. I accept, on one condition. Name it. Full transparency, every decision documented, every dollar accounted for. No exceptions, no backdoors, no family favors. I looked directly at Nolan. I may be old, but I never forgot who I am. The CEO smiled. Done. I signed the contract that afternoon, not as someone's father, not as someone's victim, as myself. Finally, completely, powerfully myself. The role came with real authority. Every major decision crossed my desk. Every financial report bore my approval. I took it seriously, showing up to quarterly reviews, challenging assumptions, protecting the company Eleanor and I had helped build. Nolan and I maintained a professional distance. We spoke only about business, never about family. never about what had happened. In meetings, he deferred to me, called me Mr. Hartley instead of Dad. Maybe it was respect, maybe it was shame. I didn't care enough to ask. Valerie disappeared from our circles entirely. I heard she moved to Phoenix, took a job in real estate. The marriage lasted another year before Nolan filed for divorce. He sent me the paperwork, I think looking for some reaction. Sympathy maybe, or vindication. I sent back a 2-word text, good luck. The cabin became my permanent home. I split my time between the island and quarterly trips to the city for board meetings. My daughter and grandkids visited often. We built new traditions, new memories untainted by betrayal. This was my life now, quiet, purposeful mine. 1 year after that first board meeting, Meridian closed the expansion deal. TechVault merged with 2 smaller companies, tripling in size. My oversight had kept everything clean, transparent, profitable. The CEO called me personally. You saved this deal, Mr. Hartley. Your integrity gave our investors confidence. I just did what Eleanor would have wanted, built something that lasts. At the celebration dinner, Nolan approached me. We hadn't spoken in months. Dad. His voice was quiet. Can I call you that? That's not my decision. It's yours. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I destroyed everything, but I want you to know I see it now. I see what I lost, what I threw away. I looked at my son, really looked at him. The gray hair, the tired eyes, the weight of his choices visible in every line on his face. I believe you, I said. But believing you and trusting you are different things. I understand. Maybe someday, but not today. He nodded and walked away. I stayed at that dinner for another hour, talking with people who respected me, valued me, saw me for who I really was, and that was enough. That was everything.